Though Van Buren has had a long history of high-quality regional transit service, its local transit service offerings have been limited to a tram line linking Central Station to Costco and the downtown area. This means that there are no direct transit links between the downtown area and Superior State University, and that the historic parts of the community don't have transit at all. The Van Buren Transit Authority, or VBT, has been established to change all of this, and today we're going to expand the tram network to touch all corners of the community and implement the Reversible Trams mod. We'll also build a new bus system to serve the city. And if you love a good transit episode, please hit the like button and leave a comment letting me know what your favorite form of transit is. Without any further ado, let's jump right in. Hello, welcome back to City Planner Plays, where we are building the city of Van Buren in Clearwater County, and we've got a good one today. We are going to be implementing the Reversible Tram AI mod to get rid of this sort of a looping thing right here. We are also going to be implementing a bus system in Van Buren, which is kind of an odd mission. We have a circulator over here at the university, but no real true local bus service, and truthfully, no real local transit service outside of our existing tram. So maybe let's talk a little bit about what we're going to do. We're going to create a radial tram system. So we're going to be taking our existing tram and making some modifications, going all the way over to the old part of Van Buren, where I assume there would have been an existing tram system, probably the first leg of our tram system, and then we're going to pulse out from our existing tram network to try to touch all corners of the community. That means that we're going to blow up our existing network. That said, I don't want to completely abandon our existing in the road tracks. So we're going to be trying to reuse what we have, but making the system much more efficient, and then working within the constraints of the game. One of the constraints that we're going to have to deal with is the length of the lines. Obviously, to get to Old Van Buren, we're not going to be able to have a line that goes all the way from over here to over here. The route would be too long, so we'll have to force a transfer in the middle. That's just kind of dealing with game mechanics. So I'm really excited to get going on this, and we're going to start right away. And I think the first place we're going to start is down here. And the reason I want to start down here is I want to show off the new Reversible Tram AI mod that I added. This is by Sway, and there are some tram stations by Klaus that are needed for this. We haven't used any of these yet, and there's a couple of things that I've noticed. So first of all, this is one of our vanilla tram roads that came with the most recent update. And if we were to just go ahead and use one of these new stops, first of all, this will work. This will function just fine. So this is part of the adaptive networks, but it still just doesn't work right here. So there's a couple of solutions that we have here. First of all, we could simply draw some lines. So here we are in the intersection marking tool. This is a completely satisfactory solution in my mind. So go ahead, draw your lines, change the color so that they line up a little bit better, and then hold down Control so you can drag these to make the lines line up. Now this is going to be something that looks good from far, but when you get close, it'll look a little jank, but that's okay. Not everything's going to be perfect. This is a situation where you don't want to let perfect be the enemy of good. This looks all right. You could settle with this. The other solution is to use the stations that work a little bit better with this. So if you go ahead and use a 4-unit station like this, so this right here will be fully functional. So I could go ahead and delete this, and you see that the tracks line up. You have the switching tracks here. And the really nice thing is now we can go ahead and look at our tram station. They're lining up right here. This will work just fine. So I know based on experience that because there were stops on both sides of the road here, there are 2 stops here. So we're going to need to play with that a little bit. But now the trams will reverse at this little 4-unit segment of road. So I think this is our solution here. We are going to have the turnaround in a couple of other locations, but for this particular spot, I'm okay with this. The reason why I'm okay with this is it'll allow some left-hand turns out of here. This is already supposed to be an arterial coming through here, so having some turning lanes, not the end of the world. This will extend out and left and right, and it will be a very important road in the future. We have some future plans that I'll go over in one of the coming episodes that will demonstrate the importance of this road. Anyway, this one is solved. We don't need that turnaround. Things are looking good, but we've got to get going on the rest of our network. And we're going to start right over here. We know that the network is going to change throughout here. Instead of having a looping motion, we're going to have 2 separate lines going up and down on either side of the capital couplet. And we're going to use some of our existing tracks, but rather than this looping around, we're going to sever these and have them end with our new reversible tram. So what we're gonna do is convert this. So right now this is bi-directional with a tram in the middle. That's not the right track for us anymore. So I'm gonna first start out by eliminating our existing tram lines, with the exception of the one that we just modified. This line right here we can keep, but all the rest are basically not gonna work anymore. So I do want to take one quick look. We have our existing ridership, and let's see how things change as we make these modifications. And I'm gonna get rid of line 3. Line 3 is the line that currently goes around the Capitol. So we'll get rid of this line. And interestingly, we have this looping movement on our line over here. We're gonna change this as well. And I'm noticing a problem down here. Let's get this fixed. Now here, I don't want this to happen. So we have this loop, our existing loop. So we are going to use our reversible stations here. So I'll just convert this, and we will remove the tram tracks from this location. There we go. And another demonstration just to show you why this isn't perfect. Obviously the tram tracks are raised up a bit. Now I think you might be able to find a prop of the tram track and draw it in using the intersection marking tool. I haven't had success with that yet. If I find a successful way of doing this, you better bet I'm going to show it to you and share it with you and show you how to do it. But this is a temporary solution for the time being. So there we go. Now let's modify this tram track. Oh, that is not what we wanted. So we'll just take this back here, remove this stop. And now basically what's happening is we're getting the tram just a little bit beyond the station area and turning around up here and then coming back around, going all the way back here. So I don't know that this is the permanent solution, but this is the one that we have right now. Okay, so next up, we had a loop around here. I never really wanted a loop here, just something that we had to do because of our limitations with the vanilla game. So let's convert this back. This is going to be important because this is going to be a way that we are able to not just serve this area, but potentially get all the way into Old Van Buren. So we need to find a way to connect our track up from our tram station across one of these bridges to get all the way down here. Now this truthfully looks like a good solution right here because we already have tracks in the road here that we could reuse. So I think that this is going to be the one that we choose. We'll just go ahead and convert some of these, coming down here to add the tram tracks. And then as we get right here, we'll add the tram tracks here. And then I want to use something that folks can't drive across. So right here, we'll use this two-lane, two-way road with tram tracks. And this will still allow folks to walk across this. Oh, this is the wrong one. You see a car just stream through there. Let's give that another shot. There we go. And I just had to get out of the road menu. That was the problem. Okay, so we've got some real odd stuff happening right here because of the length of the node. So I am going to try to adjust this a little bit to make it look a little bit better. There we go. Not perfect. I don't know that it's going to be though. So we'll have to deal with a bit of imperfection. Now that we have that in place, you could theoretically get all the way down here. So we've got this track here. We've got to get rid of this. And we are going to have a turnaround down here. So I'm going to extend this out. And then we'll use one of our turnaround tracks right here. Now let's just get this corrected. Okay, there we go. So this will be one tram line. We'll have one that just kind of pings back and forth. And maybe that meets up over here as well. So to provide some local connectivity here, we already had the tracks for the most part. This will be another connection. Honestly, there won't be stops right here for the most part. The reason this exists is really to get trams over to the other side of Van Buren. Now over here, we're going to need to redo our network, and I want to have this turnaround. So we're going to extend this potentially up to about here. Same thing over here, extend this out and have a turnaround up here. Now, this is going to be a bit of a trick over here. We might actually have to stop this early because I don't know that we have enough length here to have a turnaround. This might be our stop right here. And then over here, we're kind of in the same boat because we have all of these short streets. So this one we might need to bring all the way back here, simply so that we have enough distance to actually stop a tram. So interestingly, this doesn't play nicely with this network at all. And these are one-ways. So I think that we're going to need to make a change here. And this will be just fine. We'll have to, again, make this connection over. And then this is that road with the tram track that's coming through. So we don't want this to be a one-way. This is, again, how we get to Old Van Buren. So we will add a track through here. And we'll make this connection soon. I think this is the time where we need to start making our conversions to the old part of our system. So let's get this working. And here we're going to make some modifications. First of all, this is currently a one-way loop. So again, we're going to make this two-way. So this was bi-directional for cars, but single direction for trams. So we're just taking this. And the unfortunate thing is, with all of these changes, I almost wonder if this is even the best place to go. And I didn't want to rip up tram tracks, but I think we're going to make one exception. And that's with this loop. This doesn't make the most sense for us anymore. So we're going to take this and go on this radial street to provide additional tram access. So the idea is that these are very close. This is, 3 blocks apart. If we shift this over a couple blocks, we will have additional access to our transit network. All the way, basically the entire city in between this significant barrier here in the water, you'd have access to the tram network. So we'll scoot this one over a couple blocks. And then we'll convert this. Now that is an ugly connection there. We'll need to take a look at that soon. Now I'm going to connect this one all the way through, but I think that we're going to have our reversible tram station right here and end this line right here. And then we'll connect this tram, this again being the tram that goes all the way through. We're going to create a small tram park right here. We've been saving this for so long. And at this point, I think the most logical thing that we could do with it is to create a bit of a transit junction center right here. Now, I like this location for a couple of reasons. First and last mile connections right here to our train station. You could get on the tram and get to where you need to go. And then it's nice and centrally located. If we do this park right, we could ensure that if there is a turnaround, it's not going onto Mulligan Avenue. It's all occurring within this park. It's just a really good location. Let's take a look at this and see if there's anything we can do to improve this. And I'm glad that we came over here because it looks like the angle is a little rough. I don't know that we can do a ton to improve it. Actually, that might be a little bit better. There we go. So just playing with it a bit gives us a slightly better turn through there. There we go. Oh, yeah, that's pretty good. We'll go with that. And then on the other side, so they will share this track here, these two different branches, and then they will sever here. So we need to have bi-directional service here as well. Oh, shoot. And then we'll just send this up right towards our platform that we placed over here. Okay, so one of the things I don't love that's happening over here is we've got crosswalks everywhere and it just gets really busy and muddled. So I just want to come through here and turn these off. So I'm going to turn all of our markings off at our alleyways. So this will take a second, but I think it's worth it. You can see it just looks a ton more natural. It's a legal crossing anywhere where there's a junction of two roads, but they're not all marked. And that's one of the things that the game loves to do is mark every single crossing everywhere, every time. And that's just pretty unreasonable in my estimation. So we'll do the same thing over here where it has added them. Oh, I think we actually took care of most of those. There's a couple, like right here. Yeah, we're good though. So we've got this. We'll add in our markings. There we go. That one's looking good. We've got one more over here that we need to adjust right here. And this one is interestingly on both sides. So we could use this as the turnaround for two different lines. Okay, so we've got this all set up. Now here's the reason why you might not want to use this as the junction point for a variety of lines. The main reason is that if you were coming through here and doing that, you're going to potentially have things queuing right here and back here, the two different lines as they meet up, trying to get into this location. So That's the main reason why I think we're going to have this transit park, is at least we could have a looping mechanism through here then, and hopefully not have all of the lines meeting up and clogging everything up. So we should start getting some of these lines established, and then we will focus on our park. We'll start here, and I think we'll go maybe every 4 blocks or so. And this is a nice balance between the game's mechanics of Sims are willing to walk a long ways and the reality of a local route where you would have stops all over the place, really, so that you're providing excellent access. And I'm giving this some thought because I'm concerned that we're going to send too many routes through here. Maybe we're going to be okay. The other option would be to send it in front of this college here. So I'm concerned that we're going to have our routes that go up and down through here already going through. So we'll have 4 routes clogging up right here. That's going to be a problem. So let's think about this a little more critically before we do that. So what we're going to do is just send this down here. And interestingly, we've got a problem here already. So we can resolve this. We'll use this as a bit of a park and ride. And then we'll fix our bike route problem right here. Very good. Okay, so now we can complete this route. And what we're basically going to do is just take this. And rather than stopping here, we'll just stop around the corner. And then I'm going to mirror all the movements here. So this is not a long tram route, but I think folks would transfer back and forth. And I almost think that we have to have these stops over here. Otherwise, you got to walk around the corner. Yeah, it's not great. It'll be fine. It'll work, but this is not my preference. I would prefer that we could add this here without the game doing what I know it'll do, which is bunching a bunch of routes right here. That's not ideal. So we have this kind of funky system here of one-ways. All right, next up, let's add in a couple of our radials. And I think that we're just going to start these right over here. And then we'll stop at this park. And the first one that we'll do, we'll just take around here. So we'll stop twice by the Capitol. Once on the edge here, obviously a lot of demand at this building. And then every 4 blocks again. Although we can see our demand, so maybe we spread this one out just a bit more. And then we turn around. And we mirrored that because that's what you do with a transit route. You make sure you can get on and off in the same location. So very good. This would be a predictable route. Next up, we're going to add another one right here. And this will go up the other way. So we're going to have similar stop locations as we enter. And then again, every 4 blocks or so. And I'm going to modify this one. I noticed that this stop wasn't quite equidistant in between these, so I moved this one back a little bit. I think that's a little more centered. So there are infrequent stops. This is really responding to the game's mechanics. So again, I think that these should probably have more frequent stops, but that's not going to work well with the game. So we're going to play the game a little bit here. We are going to have a route that goes and follows along here and really links these together. So we'll have stops here so you can walk back and forth, but we need to finish our little transit park. And this is what's going to link Old Van Buren. We're going to have a route through here and we're going to link it up right here. And what I think we're going to do, first of all, let's make our route to Old Van Buren. So we'll continue this right along here. Now this has parking and that kind of bugs me. So this one doesn't. And I kind of like that. Let's get people off the streets. Cars off the streets anyway. We'll save the roads for people and we'll send that right up through here. The end of this route is going to be a turnaround, but I think that we can get through Van Buren, come all the way around here, go up past the courthouse and stop by City Hall and then turn right back around right here. So I'll show you, we'll demonstrate that right now. We'll get that turnaround in place right away. Oh, this is a bike route. So we're going to need to use some of our new bike route tram routes. And it looks like the bike route extends all the way along the coast. So it's always important to pay attention to what you're doing because we could have converted this and lost our bike network, which would have been absolutely terrible. Now the bike route ends right here because we have our coastal path that we created on stream. So now we can go back to just a normal 2-lane road with tram tracks. We're going to use one that maybe we have this median just to have that visual continuity through here. And then we're preventing the parking on street, which is what I really wanted over here anyway. And then I think through here, we are going to add in a dedicated tram track. and we'll connect that right through here. I'm wondering what would make a ton of sense back here. We'll go with some of our snowfall assets again. Maybe here's where for the time being we put in a snowman park or a skating rink. I like the idea of that as well. Okay, there we go. So the idea here is that we're just going to have a park that people could walk back and forth on. The trams could loop all the way around. This could be a one-way all the way around here. I don't know that we're going to go there. And there we go. Nothing extravagant here, but just a little something. Now, I've been thinking about this one way, and I actually think it's the wrong way to go. If we had this a one-way loop, let's say it was counterclockwise, we would end up with this route coming in, getting stuck in the loop behind one of these. Now, we could have this one come in clockwise and this one counterclockwise, and all of a sudden, now they're passing each other like two ships passing in the night, rather than having them bunching. So we don't want to bunch, so that's what we're going to do. Let's get these routes in place because I think we have everything in place to get this going. We'll start these ones over here near Central Station again, but we'll have limited stops through here, so you wouldn't have to meet up here if you didn't want to. We'll go across here, and then we'll offer a transfer right here. And then this road, this couplet here is a significant barrier. This is 8 lanes of traffic, so we will add a stop on either side of this couplet. And then we'll have a stop right here. Again, this is a transfer stop, and then our next stop is right here. And then we're turning right around. And with that, we're good. We can just end this right here. So this is basically all of our service in old Van Buren, or in new Van Buren. That is it. This is our tram network. Everything else we're going to supplement with buses. That is the extent of what we're doing here with trams. Now over here, we've got our new route. We're going to need to do our network magic over here, but we'll start here. And then I want to focus on the destinations here because there's a lot of them. So we've got one here at City Hall, one here at the courthouse. We'll have one by the library. Actually, it's really close. It's right there already. So we'll leave that. We'll get this closer to the duplexes, one at the university, and we'll have one right here. Now this provides access to the university over here, and then we'll come through and mirror this. Now you see, here's where we're not conflicting. We're on opposite sides of the road. There we go. That is an excellent route. Now let's add in our markings here. All right, good enough. There we go. If we really wanted to focus on this in a more significant way, I think we could add one more route that could branch off and go directly to our university and turn around up here. And we already have the gondolas over here. We already have 2 train stations serving the university and the shuttle bus. So I think that we're probably okay on the university. So that's why we're not going there necessarily. But I could certainly see, and I'm sure that I'm going to hear it in the comments, that there are many people who wish that this would have extended over here. And why don't you let me know in the comments if you think that we should extend this there? Let me know. I could see the university helping to pay for this, but I could also see them saying we've got enough service. We are good. So now, before we adjust our tram network, I want to focus on buses. And you might wonder, can we just start laying down routes? And we could. But here's the thing. Our only bus depot is actually in Ashland. So I think we need to add in a new depot. And this is all transit authority land. So I think that this is where they would likely want to add that. We're going to do something controversial because that's what we do. We need to add this back here, which means that we convert this pedestrian connection to a transit connection partially, and partially a road. So we need a road to let the employees drive to work. That said, if we take a look at this, we try to place this, you can see that we got a problem. This is in conflict. So we've got 2 solutions. We either grab this and rotate this around and see if this can work here. This could do the trick. But then we've got to use eminent domain on this, which truthfully, I'm pretty okay with. I think we're going to use eminent domain on both of these properties. And then right here, we're going to make some modifications. We will convert a portion of this road to be just a normal street. And we're going to pull this up to about right here. And then we're going to use some of our pedestrian streets. And I want to use the transit pedestrian road, and we'll convert this. You might wonder why I'm doing this. I just think that this right here is such a significant barrier. We're going to need to add multiple connections across for buses. So this is one of those connections that we're going to add. So now the bus could at least leave here and serve this part of Van Buren without driving all the way around the train station here. So this is a very critical connection, but we're not allowing cars across. We would allow some public service vehicles as a result of this, which I think is also a good thing. And again, you'll have to forgive some of the weird seam issues here. We will fix this in the springtime, but for the time being, it's going to look a little bit wonky. Now I want to slide this as far back as it will let me without the building. Yeah, see, now it's saying I'm not in a pedestrian district. I'm unhappy. Right about there is where we can make it happen. I think we're going to do one more thing though. I'm going to pull this across here. And here's how we replace some of that residential that we lost. There, I think that's better than nothing. So now we've kind of found a way to meet ourselves in the middle there and still have some of our residential. And truthfully, we could even pull this up around the back here if we wanted to. We need to find a corner piece here, but I think that we're probably fine. So now we have a bus depot, which means that we can establish some routes through here. And let's start drawing some bus routes. I'm excited for this because they're so necessary. Look at all of the locations through this community where you do not have service. So the very first thing I want to do is just add in some routes going through this movement here, which we don't have covered quite as much through the community. So I want to try to make these as logical as possible. The problem is we've got a couple of things that are going to sever connectivity through here. One of them is this apartment, and I could see there being an easement through the apartment to provide bus service. The main problem here is that the configuration of the Costco doesn't line up well with the apartment. And I don't know that we could make a connection through here. So what I mean is, let's say we had a bus route coming through here. I don't know that a bus could actually make this movement. This is a 4-lane road, and the bus would have to cross to the outer lane here to make a left-hand turn. That's a pretty unsafe movement. It would likely be very slow. So maybe we could do it. I don't really know though. So what that would likely mean is that either the bus is popping out onto Mulligan into the highway because this is signal controlled and getting both sides of the apartments through here, and that adds a lot of time on, or it stays back here, and that's probably what we're going to do. Let's start our first route at Costco. So we'll get an easement. We need an easement to operate in the Costco. So we'll get that easement, and then we'll have a stop across from the apartment, and we're going to go about every 4 blocks here as well. And the main reason is we'll end up with plenty of service. They'll walk to these stops. In reality, I think you'd have stops much more frequently than that, and you wouldn't have folks getting on at all of the stops. Now through here, we could just send this straight through, but we're going to meander up and try to provide service to some of these lower density uses. If you've ever been on a bus route, I'm sure you've experienced this where it's not the most direct route to get to where you want to go, but it's providing coverage. And this is something that a bus does really well. So here we're adding a stop to provide access to all these athletic facilities. And then we're going to add a stop much closer than I would prefer. This serves the high school and a transfer opportunity to the trams. And then we are going to not have a stop for a while. And again, a transfer over here. And then we'll provide another opportunity to interface with all of these tram routes and our high school over here and that athletic facility. And then we're going to send this over here again. So in reality, I'd be thinking about, could this have clock face headways? So could it be served in a way that every time the bus comes, it's on a 30 or an hour, or is it a little bit too long? So you think about that a lot with bus routes. You want the routes to make some sense, so you don't have to look at a schedule every time. This is also another thing. This stop would not allow the bus driver to make that left unless we back it up. So this is where maybe stops aren't always symmetrical, because they need to be able to switch lanes to make that left-hand turn into here. So that's good. And I've added a stop here, not because I think it's great. Oh, we can take it away now, actually. So I wanted to ensure that they weren't hopping on Mulligan Avenue for this route. This is a complete route now. This serves this area well, and it will do the trick in terms of providing access to all these destinations and some lower density uses that maybe would be difficult to serve. And we'll just add another route that comes up here, meets with the university, and that's about it. So I'm going to start this route in kind of a weird spot. We're going to start it right here. This is near the legislature building. We'll go down the one-way every few blocks, stop before Mulligan Avenue, and then I want to do a circulation loop through here And then again, every 4 blocks or so. Where it's going to get weird is up here. I think we need to go to the university. So we're going to stop. There's also a lot of density right here. And then I just want to interface somewhere at the university with the shuttle service that's already up there. So we'll have a stop right here, and then we'll turn right back around. And this, we won't mirror the stops exactly because we're just trying to provide service to this neighborhood. And this is a circulator route, so I think that's going to be just fine for us. Now over here, I think that we need a service that would link up the university to the rest of this old Van Buren. So we will run a route over here as well. This will be a bit of a circulator route connecting our tram up to the university and to some of our dorms. There is no turnaround down here, which does make this challenging. So we'll start here just so we know what we're doing. And we'll add a stop at the university. And then I'm going to try to hit the density on the edge here. And then the same thing over here. Find that density, meet up with it. And now we're trying to end this route. Now, initially I was thinking circulator for this, but because of the way this route's designed now, I think we need to have a bi-directional route that serves in both directions. And there we go. So this would be a very valuable route. And now you can see that there's basically transit covering the entire community. You can get around basically no matter where you're at in this community. Couple block walk to some sort of transit, and they all interface with one another quite well. The only place that's maybe a little bit trickier is the corner of this university here. And there are a lot of forced transfers, just bluntly. It's probably better to do that than have super long routes that would in reality need to interline or change their numbers partway through to work. So this will probably work out just fine for us. Now, our transit utilization is lower than at the start of the episode. And part of that is we just need to let this run. And part of it is we need to optimize our routes. So I'm going to let this run for maybe 5 minutes, and then we will make adjustments to our routes. Okay, and this probably isn't a huge surprise, but we've gained about 400 transit riders per week for our residents and about 100, maybe 70 for our tourists. So this is unoptimized, which I think is pretty impressive. We've also been gaining population steadily, although you wouldn't be able to tell right now. So that's not a bad thing either. And all of this is before we enable the free transit policy, if that's something we need to do. So I want to know, should we enable the free public transit policy? I have some thoughts about free public transit, and if this is something we want to do, I will discuss that in a future episode. Let me know, should we have free public transit or not? I will not enable it until I hear from you guys. All right, let's optimize these routes. Now, I've talked about this in Nicolet Bay a little bit. For these new routes, I want to think about the number of passengers that are queuing at the route versus our capacity on those routes. Now, interestingly, it looks like some of these routes actually have names and some of them do not. So this one is Route 8. This is the one that goes to Costco. So we'll make this Route 8 Costco. Route 9 is our loop. So we'll make this the Hillside Loop. And then we have these 2 loops that we added in Van Buren, and these ones, for whatever reason, got names. Let's start out. We'll look at the Costco route, and holy cow, we have some passing up occurring. Okay, so looking at this, right in front of this apartment building, we have a ton of passing up occurring. So I want to adjust these routes, and the way that I like to do this is to actually add up the number of passengers that we have being passed up with the number of passengers that we have in these vehicles, and then we will figure out the amount of capacity that we need on our routes. So I'm going to do that. It's going to take me just a minute. I'm going to go through this and add all these numbers together. Okay, so I've gone through and I've done all of the math, and what I'm seeing is that we've got a capacity on our buses of 420, and we have a total number of passengers of 1,081 that want to use this route. So we could do a couple of things. We could just crank this up, and we would need approximately 300% capacity to make this work. There would be buses everywhere, and it would likely have a significant impact on our traffic. Or we could just accept that we're going to need a bus with higher capacity. So I think that's the route that we go. So let's go. We're going to go right for the 80 capacity. And knowing that we have about 1,100, let's up the capacity. We'll go 1,300 divided by 80. We need at least 16.25 buses to get there. So now we'll crank this up. We'll go to 17 buses, 117%. We are now providing enough capacity to completely clear our queues here. So the buses will need to unbunch, but there shouldn't be a reason that this route wouldn't work. So we're going to need to do that with all of the rest of our routes as well. So I'm going to do that. We'll take a look at one of the tram routes as well, just to see where these are at. And then I'm going to do this off camera because I know me doing a bunch of math is maybe not the most exciting thing, but it's very important. Okay, looking at our trams, many of these do not have names, which is unfortunate, but it's fine. We know that the first 2 routes are Ashland routes. All the rest are here. And we don't have a Route 3, which is interesting. I don't really get that. So Route 4 is actually the first route that we modified. And this one looks like there's a couple of spots with passing up. We're gonna need to do math here to, again, figure out the right number and then maybe look at our tram vehicle to see maybe we have fewer higher capacity vehicles to handle this. Although I think 140 is actually our top capacity vehicle. So probably fewer vehicles here, but there may be passing up from time to time. And I'm going to take this route, Route 9, whatever this is. Let's see. This Route 9 is the route in Old Van Buren. We're going to name this Old Van Buren and make this Route 3 because this will drive me crazy. And this route, again, it looks like it's doing okay. We probably have some excess capacity. So again, these routes, what we're going to do is just do some quick math on it. I'm going to rename the rest of these lines. So we'll take a look at them. Route 8 is the route that actually just pings. Oh, this one actually is the kind of the crosstown route. So we're going to name Route 8 the crosstown. And again, probably a lot of excess capacity on here. So this isn't necessarily a problem, but we want to ensure that we don't have traffic backing up right here because I have a feeling if we look here, very heavy traffic. This is because of the number of trams that are using this. So I'm going to go through here and I'm going to do math to come up with the optimal number of vehicles on each of these routes. And then I'll show you what I've done in just a minute. Okay, and I've adjusted all of the routes now, and there are some big changes. So when we're looking at our trams, most of them I had to increase the capacity quite substantially. So I've tried to use different vehicles for the most part and tried to right size them. So for routes that there was significant overcrowding on, I tried to use tram vehicles. So like this one, I used a 105. The idea being I will throw additional vehicles at here to try to have more out there on the road to clear some of these spots where we have bunching, and hopefully they'll come more frequently and clear this queue more. Now, if it's a little more evenly distributed, I tried to use a larger vehicle, if at all possible, and clear it in that particular way. So what I've done is I've added up all of the number of passengers on the vehicles and at the stops, and then I've divided it by the capacity that I would need per vehicle. So add up all the passengers, then take the vehicle, divide that by the vehicle, and then I've added 2 additional vehicles so we have some overhead. So I've done that on almost all of the routes for both the tram and the bus. And at this point, what I want to do is, again, let this go for another 5 minutes or so and see where our utilization ends up and ensure that none of our buses or trams have overcrowding. So before we were at about 2,725 residents per week and about here for our tourists. So we're going to see where that ends up. We're going to let this run again for 5 minutes and we'll see where this goes. Okay, and we've got everything fully optimized. And we've got a little under 200 extra resident trips per week. And we've lost 25 tourist trips per week. Not really consequential, just kind of a thing to be aware of. So I had to do a number of things to get here. Off camera, I noticed that there was significant bunching in this particular area. Every single route that came into here, every tram route that came into here was backed up. So we had a route right here, the route that goes to Costco, this kind of teal route. That one was backing up. Everything right here was backing up, everything right here, all the way around here. So I had to create a new transit mall. And the way that I've done this is I took our new reversible tram stations and I added additional stations right here. So this is one station and this is another. And then in Node Controller, I've gone in and made this a crossing. So what that has allowed me to do is to basically separate all of these routes and have them meet here. So there's no crossing. This green route doesn't have to wait for this blue route. They can operate at the same time, which means that there's no waiting there, which is absolutely fantastic. The only routes that are now overlapping are the yellow route and this teal route. Other than that, there is no waiting, and those two routes don't conflict in a significant way. Look at that, we've gone up another 100 passengers per week. So with this, we actually probably have excess capacity now, and we could go through and again fully optimize. The other thing that I've done is I went over to Ashland and made a minor modification over there as well. Well, maybe not minor. Maybe minor is the wrong way of looking at it. The courthouse line over there had significant backing up. So there was a route, a particular stop right here. You can see this one is already a very consequential stop. This stop is right in the downtown area near this park, and you can see everyone queuing up right here. This stop at one point had over 300 people waiting to get on. So we've gone through, we've adjusted this, made this one of our 140 capacity trams, and then adjusted the routes. And at this point, we actually probably have a bit of excess capacity on this line. That said, I'm okay with that, because if we take a look at this route, it is our longest tram line in the city at 8.1 kilometers, which means that we actually probably need the extra vehicles to be able to clear all of our queues here. Because if there is a bunching that occurs, you end up with some pretty significant wait times in between the next tram coming and the one that just passed that's full. So it can be a concern. That's why we have that extra capacity here. All of that said, look at that. The numbers keep getting better, keep going up, and I'm feeling really good about this. We've got a lot of utilization of our trams. We've got a lot of utilization of our buses. Our most successful transit route in general is our Costco bus route, which I guess I'm a little surprised. So this is the one that loops around Costco, goes past our apartments, goes through this lower density area to our high school, then to downtown Van Buren, and then meets at the tram here to connect up with Old Van Buren and the train station. Apparently, that was a very significantly important route. And it just goes to show that blanketing your community with transit, ensuring that all of your significant nodes of density and all of your significant destinations are reached, it's super important. So in the next one, what we are going to need to focus on is really making sure that all of these tram corridors now have more density along them. I would assume that that would be where the community would go next. We would need to take a look at that and really start to think about increasing the density along these corridors, because the values would be going up. And I'm curious to see if the game actually shows additional value along these corridors. You can kind of see it. Where we have the trams, there is additional value. That transit service, it really does increase land value, particularly fixed route transit, where you could bank on that being there for years to come. All of that said, I do think we need to really take inventory of what we've done and have a brief city tour before I show you something special. Okay, and that was a fun little tram tour, but I wanted to point this out. So right now the clouds are moving, and one of the reasons for that is I've gone through and added a mod based on the recommendation of Gaseous Stranger. So they put out a video earlier in the week going over their hyper-realistic visual settings. And though I didn't take most of the settings because of my play style, it's just a little bit different, I did take one thing, and that is the AD Cloud Replacer mod, which has completely changed the way that my sky looks. So I've gone through and added this mod along with the fog controller mod, which has allowed me to adjust the fog and change where the horizon is. And the two of these mods have completely changed the way that the sky looks. So I've gone through and just changed it so that this is a speed that I can see the clouds moving at, but maybe not so fast that it makes me nauseous. I had that set that way for a moment, but now it's just a nice gradual moving of the clouds, and it just makes it feel more alive. I feel like this. All the smileys, that's how I feel. So I'm going to leave a link to Gaseous Stranger's video. Goes through all of his visual settings, and just really an outstanding video in terms of presentation and the information shared in there. So it's absolutely excellent. All of that said, this has been a really fun episode. I always love transit, and the funny thing is this points out our next issue, which is likely traffic. We are having some significant traffic issues. Part of that is due to the increase in population that we've been experiencing. We've added about 1,000 this episode, but we've also just got some things that are broken now that the region has grown a bit, and we're going to have to address some of those. And I hear that the State of Superior DOT has some solutions. We're going to have to see how we feel about those, but they're coming soon. So I hope that you've enjoyed this one. If you did, please hit the like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. And it's really a pleasure and a privilege to bring these videos to you. I can't wait to see you in the next one. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.